All right,
Hello,
Ricardo.
hello, my friend. How are you? Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. And I am really super excited to be with my dear friend Al Zaytun. This took quite a while for us to make it happen. But when we started writing the book, one of my dreams was, okay, let's find a way of bringing the authors to discuss their cases because they cover so many different aspects. And Al Zaytun decided to join me on this webinar series that is starting today. Thank you very much, my friend.
Super excited, ready to get into it. And it's been a wonderful journey getting into this book and this work, and that enabled us to bring all these great stories and examples of what we need to do to shape the next generation project managers. So let's get on with it. I'm so excited that we managed to
That
pull it together.
that's great. So look, we will start soon, and if you want to ask questions based on their comments, please feel free to do so. I will have access to the questions here, and I will present to them. And I don't want to waste our time here, and I want to invite to join us. They were very generous of accepting our invitation to be with us today. So I want to invite Ju Alves, the industrial director for Ambev, and Rodrigo Moxia from institutional director for Ambev. So they are with us today to talk about the case. So we have people, I can see here, people sending notes from Alberta, Canada, sending notes from Angola. So Ju and Rodrigo, thank you very much for being with us today. Okay, and of course, I need to start. I know probably most of us, we know AB InBev, but can you tell us a little bit more about Ambev? So what is the mission and what is the work you both do?
So it's a pleasure to be with you here. Thank you very much to invite us, Ricardo and Dr. All. I'm a fan of you both, so I'm a little bit nervous to be here with you. The first project management training that I did was with Ricardo, so it's a pleasure, really
It's
pleasure to
my
be here.
pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Thank you very much. So I'm chemical engineering. Talking about me, I'm chemical engineering. I worked to Ambev from 15 years. I did 15 years today this year. Uh, I'm I have master degree in environmental technologies and studied project management. And now I'm working as project director to Ambev. I'm mother, so very important here because woman has I'm really involved with empower women in engineering. So today I work with capacity increase projects. So everything that we need to increase as a new brewery or a brownfield, everything. I have a team managing this, and also innovation projects is in whole of my team too. So really pleasure to be here, and I hope to answer every answer and question that you have.
Thank you.
Hello. Uh, Hello all. Hi, Professor Ricardo, Dr. All, Ju, my colleague here at Ambev. My name is Rodrigo Mossi. I'm the Corporate Affairs Director here at we are the biggest company, beverage company around the world. We are one of the main private companies in Brazil. And it's a great pleasure to be here with colleagues, with people from all around the world. Now here in Brazil, we are in the beginning of the night, on the sunset. I talking about myself. I have almost 15 years in the company, as just said. I started at the commercial area, and since 2010, I am in the corporate affairs team, And I think it's interesting. Like, we will talk about the article that we wrote about COVID. I took the position as Government Affairs Director 1 month before COVID. So everything that we will share here started with the beginning of my new position. So it's a great pleasure to be here and share the article with our friends around the world. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Ju. And I want to hear a little bit more from you. Can you tell us more about the article? Because for me, the article is really different from, I would say, a traditional project setup, because it has such a fantastic sense of purpose. It was in the middle of COVID, so your team had to, I would say, in some ways, reinvent themselves, with, I would say, a quite different approach to projects. So, can you explain more about the rationale of the article and what happened during that time that you implement all these initiatives?
Do you want to start, Ju?
No, you can go there.
Okay, perfect. So I think, like, before we start, thank you for the invite to write the article. We wrote the article I think a little bit more about 1 year ago. Like, we were living the worst phase of the COVID. Like, we were in the beginning of the vaccination process. So all the insights were fresh in our minds. And I think the article, like, it was a great opportunity for us to preserve the knowledge that we developed during this period, and accelerate new initiatives looking forward. So talking about, like, what we did, our journey, beside all the bad things that the COVID brought to the society, we here in the company, we had, like, a tremendous experience during this period, especially talking about the management of projects. We tell, like, the article describes our journey during this period, starting with the production of hand sanitizers. In the beginning of the pandemic, like, we produced more than 6 million units of hand sanitizers when the market was empty of them. Like, we have alcohol that we took from the beer to produce non-alcoholic beer, so we have a good amount of alcohol. And at the moment that the COVID came and the hand sanitizers were over, we could deliver to the market more than 6 million units. So I think, like, we had a group, a working group that we call Squad do Bem. So we started with COVID, then we started with the hand sanitizers. Then we describe our initiative, starting from the hand sanitizers until the development of the 2 vaccine plants in Brazil that we supported, we created with our team. So it was a great experience sharing this experience. And I think we have, like, I have, on my perspective, 3 main insights that we had during this period. Working with purpose, as the Professor Ricardo said in the beginning, it was great to see how, when we work with purpose, like, we can make big things. Collaboration. We are one of the main companies in the country, and as Brazilians, like, we need to help. Like, we need to work for the development of our countries, of our realities. At that time, during COVID, like, nobody knew the answers, like the government, the university, nobody had solution for nothing. And we, as private sectors, we understood that we had a role in this process, and we did our part. So talking about the oxygen, like, we had a crisis of oxygen in the Amazon. So in 1 day, we could send more than 500 cylinders of oxygen to the Amazon. and in 3 days, I think in 1 week at least, we could organize more than 40 companies to buy auxins of oxygen and deliver to the whole state, to the whole Amazon. So we learned about collaboration and working together. And in the end, I think the main insight that I took from this period is that what we figured out is that we have a tremendous power using our capabilities in the company to work on problems of the society. So applying the knowledge that we have in the company to solve problems of the society is so powerful. So we had many examples, and on the article we mentioned one by one, but I think the main idea is this: we could organize a group, be connected with the society, understand the problems were huge, and use our capabilities to help to support the development of solutions for these problems.
Thank you. Ju, do you want to comment?
Yes, the article was a different experience for us, mainly for me. Rodrigo is much better than me to talk and write. It was a very good experience to put all the ideas together and then to describe all this process, to remember everything, all the steps, because the first one was sanitizer. And when we did sanitizer, we got the energy that we need to the rest one, because the other ones, because we did it sanitizer in 10 days. So imagine this to the team that worked on that and got the confidence and energy and everything to the others, to the other initiatives of the Squad do Bem, but also to the other projects and to everything that we were doing inside the pandemic period that was not easy for everybody. So it was very important to write the article with you. Yeah. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, but it's for me. I need to say it's incredible because I was, of course, we were together doing the writing, and I felt all of you so passionate about doing that and sharing that. Because of course, Ambev is a huge conglomerate in Brazil. And suddenly you just, it's like a blink and you became extremely aware and competent. You know what Rodrigo just said, 3 days for those who are, because we have people from Pakistan, we have people from all over the world listening here. And what is important is that we face a massive crisis in the north part of Brazil with oxygen at that time. And Ambev played a very absolutely relevant role on using the distribution channels and everything to make things happen quickly. And this is incredible. And now I just want to turn to my friend Al Zaytoun that wants just to ask a follow-up question on that.
No, that's great. Thank you, Ricardo and Ju and Rodrigo. When people ask me about the book and ask me about, it's a classic question. What is your favorite pillar? The book has 10 pillars that really drive the next generation. And I'm not just saying that because you're with us on this event, but the reality, this is chapter 2, and it's talking about the humanitarian aspect of project management. And to your point and how both of you described the linkages, what happens when you have a clear purpose? What happens when you are very clear on the mission? What happens when you are able to really make a contribution to society like the way you did, and the speed by which you accomplish that? So that I grew up in a world that talks about, this is not an academic exercise, right? This is really real, right? So when it comes to getting things real, one thing that's very important is, what is the secret sauce, we call it, or what is the magic? And one thing that intrigued me, besides the beautiful graphics and how you really did a wonderful writing in that chapter, and specifically in your case, but this whole idea of the squad for good, right? So, I have my thoughts based on, Ricardo is the closest to you in terms of shaping the writing, and I have my thoughts on what is the magic there. But if you can tell us more, especially with an eye on, we're trying to shape the mindset and the culture of future generations of project managers. What is really the magic of this idea? Why did it work out pretty well to accomplish the great examples you just shared with us? And anything else that you wish maybe you could add now live in addition to your writings about, what would a team like that do differently for you and for other organizations would be great.
No, perfect, Dr. Al. I think before answering your question, I don't know if everybody read the article, so I think it's important to give like a quick summary about it. So like we created this group that we call Squad for Good, in Portuguese, Squad do Bem, and we started to meet every day at 8 a.m. With no leaders, with no like order of like our chairman of our board. Like we started organic meeting, discussing the troubles, the problem that we were facing. Like we were in troubles. Like we were in troubles, and nobody knew the answers. Like we started to saw people dying every day, and we started to discuss what we can do. Like we are one of the main biggest companies in the world. So if we could not like we could not close our eyes to what were happening, so we had to react. So we started these meetings every morning, every day at 8 a.m., discussing the reality and thinking how we can use our capabilities to solve the problems that we were facing. Like the problems were real and we had real impact. So very quick, we started with the hand sanitizers. So as I said before, like we donated more than 6 million units when the market was empty. Then we shaped the Guaraná, one of our CSD products, patch on face shields. So we became the biggest producer of face shields in Brazil. Then Ju leads the construction of a hospital in a very poor community in 34 days. So we created 100 beds in a very poor community in 34 days. We built this hospital. Then we started to work on the vaccine plants. So we developed the project to build 2 plants in Brazil. We raised the money with other companies, and we built, like we work in partnership. So we supported both projects using our engineering. And I think in the end, like we did many other things, but I think the main ones, we created this coalition to support with oxygen. And then we adapted one of our plants to produce oxygen later on. So very quick for the ones who didn't had time to read the book, those are the main initiatives that we realized. And to conclude your question, I think the magic was nobody asked for us. We had no targets regarding these initiatives. Like I am government affairs, Ju works with project. Like we had colleagues from supply, from communications, from different areas of the company. Procurement, like from all around, discussing what we can do, because we were really engaged in supporting the reality.
That's excellent.
Yeah. No, just to add, we are Brazilians, so our CEO is Brazilian. So we know that we have a responsibility in the country. So we decided to go there and see what is happening, talk with people. So Rodrigo has a huge contact with a lot of people here. So sometimes we meet and we say, okay, what we are going to do now? And then in this period, we go listen what is happening, talk with a lot of people, and then come back and say, okay, the needs are here, they're clear. So we decided to do very impact actions, initiatives. So we go to this. So Rodrigo said about vaccine, hospital, oxygen, and for sure, in all of them, was a big challenge. So in the day one, we meet each other and say, guys, how we are going to do that? But what was clear is that our culture about ownership and our dream was a direction always. So we were together to solve these problems and to put our capabilities on that.
Great. Love both your comments, and also love we are Brazilians. I thought that's only in football, but it looks like it carries over that national pride.
You know me. You know me. Yeah, you know me. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but
And look, we are not. I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
are not starting with Ambev just because I am Brazilian. Okay? It's just no. It's just because really we. I wanted to start this discussion with a high note because this project I never saw. Look, for those who read the article, they did like the drawing, like a storytelling. It was really, really unique
No,
on the sense.
absolutely, Ricardo, because one of the big tones of the book and some of the other chapters talk about innovation and creating the right culture. So this team here, even though they happen to be in the pillar about the humanitarian aspects of project management, they're really hitting the head on the nail, or the nail on the head, I guess, as we call it, and many of the other areas for our success. Now, it cannot sound perfect without some challenges, right? So I am sure the path from you talked about the ownership aspect, you talked about how empowered that team was, you talked about the ranking aspects and so forth. All of these are phenomenal and important aspects, and we've seen trends moving in that direction, even in some of the teams, even agile space and so forth. But the reality is, any challenge like this doesn't, any success like this doesn't come with key challenges. So can you point maybe one or two challenges that affected, whether it's the speed of accomplishing your outcomes or your aspirations? And actually, by the way, Rodrigo, I love the fact that you almost say there was no specific metrics or expectations. You went after it because you went after what's right to do, right? And so it's not like the world we come from, which is tell me how I measured, I'll tell you how I will perform. You didn't need that. So anyhow, I'll let you jump in, Rodrigo, if you want first, or Drew, it's up to you. But it would be great to know how you tackle some of the challenges.
Okay, I can add two challenges, and then Rodrigo put more too, because there was a lot. So for me, first one, we decided that we are going to make mistakes together. So doesn't matter if we make one mistake, we are together and we are going to reach the target, but not a target, but to reach the challenge, to go there and until the end together. So collaboration was very clear inside the group. Other one, no boss. So was a new way of working. Yes, for all of us. We are doing something. We were 6 in the beginning. We were doing something alone every day, daily, 8 in the morning, together with no boss. It's a challenge, but it was important for us, also a new way of working.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's for me, it's fantastic to hear this. And one thing that impressed me so much, because you are a beverage company. Of course, when we talk about the alcohol gel production, okay, it's different. But okay, in some ways, Rodrigo explained it. Okay, we take the alcohol from the non-alcoholic beer and we do that. But tell me, how was the mind of the team and the group and the squad for good when we are talking about a hospital initiative, right? That it's, I would say, it's like different from your business. So imagine that you work in a field and suddenly, because of the massive need, you support it. And one thing that in your case, it became for me very, very clear. It's the concept of donating more than money, donating capability, donating brain thinking. So tell us, how was that? how this happened during the pandemic.
Perfect, Ricardo. I think Ju can talk about the hospital once that she lead the project since the beginning. But answering Dr. Al first, I think like we learned a lot. Like we learned a lot during this period, and we learned with each other during the process. Like our ideas, they were growing with us. Like we were developing our insights during the process. Like it wasn't planned since the beginning. And I think one of the main learnings that I had talking about measure is that like we always talked about impact. Like when you talk about CSR, social corporate responsibility, like the companies talk about reputation. They measure reputation. This is not our case. Like we were not doing this to gain reputation. We were doing everything that we did to generate a real impact. So we were like I think in the group, and this is something that we developed. Like we didn't want headlines. We didn't want to appear or to be on the press. Like we were doing this because we believed that the country needed and was like we were connected with the problem and we had the capabilities to solve this. So I think this is one of the main points that we learned during this process. Like other point is that like we here at Ambev, we love metrics for everything. We have metrics for all the projects, and we are passionate about metrics. And I think like Ju will explain about the hospital, but like I have a strong memory that when we were launching the hospital, a leader from the community came to me and he said, Rodrigo, thank you very much for this, like that you are doing, and this is not possible to measure. This is like you can imagine the benefit that you are bringing to us. So I think for me, we like there's no metric in the middle of the COVID in a very poor community. We could build 100 beds in a hospital when they needed. Later on, like the model that Ju created was replicated in the whole country. Like they created more. I know at least more 10 hospitals replying this model. This is the multiply effect. So I don't know if you have with all the tools and Professor Ricardo, with everything that you teach, we weren't able to measure this, and this for me was a very rich insight.
Actually, Ricardo, it sounds like in the last comment you preach a lot of the classic metrics, but that's not true. I mean, I've seen some of your latest updates on looking at things more from a portfolio view, right? Which we really talk also about to some extent in the book. But I actually, which means use some of the non-traditional views of success, which is Rodrigo, you're spot on in talking about that. I'm almost thinking also when I hear the team here talk about the case that you could have easily also contributed to or wrote this case as part of the leadership section. And when we talked about the maturing of leadership, because you're really talking about here what we call social leadership, right? So really the example and the humbleness by which we lead and look at our mission, like you highlight, I think it's really phenomenal. Yeah, thank you for that.
Ju, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll try to answer your question. So talking about the hospital, we saw the hospital built in China. So we are facing this problem already in Brazil. Then we were developing one technology to construct quickly. So it's a modular one. We construct outside and then go there and just assemble. we were testing this technology from 2 years. We did 2 different buildings, so it was in test. And this company is a partnership of us. We started the development with them, call it Brasil ao Cubo, and then they sent me one. Oh, I have a problem. Just
You're good. Yeah.
I don't have light at room. Just a second. Just a second.
No, that's
You're fine,
perfect.
actually.
You're
actually.
fine. You're
You're
fine.
fine.
Ah, I can continue.
We
Okay.
can, yeah, we can see you perfectly.
Okay, it's back.
So
And
you
then-
overcome challenges like this, adaptability.
Okay. And then they sent me one WhatsApp one night and said, "Oh, we were developing this room for people to do isolation at home." And they said, "At home? I cannot understand that we were going to isolate at home completely, not in your room, but completely outside." And then I went to the team and said, "Guys, some idea here. I don't know if it's idea or not. Let's discuss." But from this WhatsApp until we start the construction, we took 5 days. So imagine that in these 5 days, we discussed the idea. The idea come to a hospital. We went to a partner, which was Einstein in Brazil, developed with them, and then start the construction in their facilities. So it was amazing.
Just by the way, I will interview next week Juliana from Einstein to talk about the Einstein dimension also in the humanitarian sector. So yeah, it's great because for me it's incredibly surprising to have a beverage company going to build hospitals, because most of the time people try to help on what they know, right? Where their core expertise is, and you did that. And one point I want just to go back and based on all what Al said, what I feel today, writing this and after my work at the UN, is that project management is a great tool to transform ideas into reality, but people want to find a meaning for the work that they are doing. It's far above the paycheck, or the promotion, but it's something really that brings this excitement, the sense of being helpful, the sense of being a good citizen, a good member and a functional member of our society. And I think this is becoming an absolutely a trend. And when Al said to me, okay, we could fit your case in leadership, we could fit, yes, because all the pillars, we built the book with the pillars to help people to understand the different dimensions. But at the end, for you to make what you made happen, it's leadership, commitment, culture, a sense of purpose, and fantastic ability of planning and executing. When you talk about 5 days, many people try and spend 5 days trying to find a way of having a meeting to discuss something. Yeah. It spent 5 days just to, think about a meeting. And this is a fantastic use of your capability to do that. And this is an example for those who are living. And this is one of the key reasons we invited you both to do that. We are, we would love to stay forever, but, you already helped dramatically. So I would love, Ju, Rodrigo, and Al, your final comments. If you have anything that we should, sleep with today, and think on how we can become better project managers and better citizens. So if you can share this with us today.
Rodrigo, you want to go first? That's an important recap on your part.
Okay. So thank you very much again for the invite to be here and share like our thoughts. I think the article is, like, as I said in the beginning, a great opportunity for us to preserve our memories. Like we had a tremendous experience during this period, and there were many insights. I think to conclude, like my final comments here is that like we had a great impact in a moment that the enemy was clear. Like we were connected with the society, we could understand the problems, and I think the secret that like what we did in the whole solutions that we did, like we used our capabilities in the company to solve problems of the society. I think this was the main secret of everything that we did. And I think like what we are discussing now, myself with Ju and with the rest of the team, is that like the society post COVID, there are many problems. Like we are in the middle of a war, like the climate change, the inequality, that like we don't have any more COVID, but we have thousands of problems in the society. And we had a good experience when not only Ambev, but where we met, like where we invite other companies and the private sector worked together in collaboration to solve these problems. So we proved that we, in a very short period of time, we can make difference. Like we can improve our society, we can solve problems of the society. So what we are waiting to meet again and to work on the problems that are today, that we have today: climate change, inequality, the war. Like my belief and my call here is that we don't need to wait a new pandemic to bring people together again and solve the problems of the society. But it's very hard to engage everybody again, because we came back from our boxes. Like we have our targets, we have like our positions to deliver. So my position is that this is my call, and what is I'm thinking, and how we can keep this engagement to face the new problems of the society.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo.
Yes, very good. The needs are not too clear, as Rodrigo said, but they are there. We know them, so we can go there and continue and to engage our the people that are listening us to do the same, to discover your sponsors and go there and see what you can do for the community that you are included. Here in Brazil, we have a huge, Ambev has a huge program about professional inclusion now. We are working on that too. You're going to see and hear a lot about that. But talking about leadership, as you mentioned, usually we can talk about process. We can talk about develop team, do a lot of workshop with them. But what I learned a lot on that was, if you have a big dream, you transform and change your team. Everybody will be different before dreaming together. So it's what I suggest for everyone. If you don't have a big dream with your team, develop this, because this will transform your team.
Fantastic. My dear friend Al,
Ricardo, it's really hard to talk after this team. Right?
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
I
just
know.
the last
Just-
statement about when you have a dream, you transform together. I mean, that could be already one of the key takeaways. I really love the fact that this team highlighted the importance of empowerment, the sense of urgency that was created around how the COVID was handled, But to your point earlier, when you reflected on the fact, and the team did as well, that this could have easily been in other pillars, including your comment, Ricardo, about what truly motivates the next generation. Financials and those classical rewards are great, but really organizations are going to suffer tremendously if they're not adjusting their cultures to think about the impact of those missions. Why do we do what we do? I think that's a big theme that came from this wonderful case and contribution here. I think the one thing that we probably leave as unanswered, let's say, is the comment about how to take that same energy, as Rodrigo and Joe, both you mentioned, and create repeatability of those patterns in our organizations, right? So what do we do to get this mindset to work horizontally in our organizations? Everyone talks about not being able to work across silos and verticals and competing priorities and so forth. And this, from the dawn of age of project management, has continued to be a challenge. So we don't need to fully answer it now, but I hope that as you continue to drive your successes and the spread of those successes across organizations, and maybe some of our audience around the world and the ones who have read the book and will continue to search for and read the book, is to maybe hear from them as well. What has been the successes around this whole notion of the matrix, horizontal, breaking silos, especially in the mindset. I think a lot of what was really powerful about your case, you did break molds in terms of mindsets, and you shifted, as Ricardo and you highlighted, from your business model to models that matter at the given moment. How can you repeat those patterns? I think would be fantastic. So I love this being our first webinar, Ricardo. I think it's a phenomenal kickoff.
Thank you. Thank you, my friends. Look, when we did this, we did with, there is no commercial intent, anything. There is only one thing, because when we did that, Wiley said, okay, if someone wants the book, so we managed, Al and I, we managed to find a 20% off of the book. So if anyone is interested on the book, it's KPM20, the discount code for you to buy directly on them. I want just to finish saying, look, we have people from Ambev in Rio, Ju and Rodrigo. We have people from Tunisia, Angola, Morocco, Pakistan, Brazil, Canada, okay, here listening to us, and this experience touched really deeply on our beliefs, and everything I'm doing recently, people that follow me on social media, I'm very keen that we need to find ways of improving the society. And I think that what you just gave to us is a magnificent example of using the competences and the project management skills to do something that will leverage the society. So thank you very much. And I special regards for my brothers and sisters in Pakistan that were suffering from the floods, a tragedy on climate. So to all of you, you have our full support and our praise here. And I hope that some of the examples they gave to you here will help you to find the best possible path to a future success. Okay, so thank you all very, very much. Ju and Rodrigo, thank you for your time and your kindness to be with us today. Dear all, thank you very much for being such a wonderful partner on this journey. Now it's almost 10 p.m. Here for me in Portugal. So, after a very busy day, I will finish my day in a very positive note. So thank you all very much for attending, and feel free to share this video with your colleagues. So thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Ju. Thank you all. And see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.